On today's episode, I want to introduce you to DXO's Film Pack 6. Rediscover the magic of analog in the age of digital. Let's check it out. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. Today I want to show you the all-new DXO Film Pack 6. I have always been a big fan of Film Pack 5. I use it all the time, and I'm so excited that Film Pack 6 is now out. There's also a new version of PHOTOLAB. It's now PHOTOLAB 5. I'll be showing you that in an upcoming video, but today it's all about Film Pack 6. But right now there's a nice sale going on up till November 14th, and so right now they are 30% off, so that's a good sale price. And also, all the products are on sale right now. The Nick Collection, DXO Pure Raw, Viewpoint 3. And if you will click on my affiliate link in the description below, it'll take you to these sales. When you click on my links and purchase the product, I make a small commission. This helps support my channel. And if you do that, I want to thank you in advance. I really appreciate it. Well, enough of that. Let's take a look at DXO Film Pack 6. Hey, if you like film, you're going to love Film Pack 6. I'm working out of Photoshop today, and I'm using Film Pack 6 as a plugin. However, you can use Film Pack 6 as a standalone app. It'll process RAW files, and now it even works with Fuji X-Trans files, and so does PHOTOLAB, which is really good news. I'm really excited about that, and I'm sure all you Fuji owners will be happy about that as well. Well, let me go ahead and launch Film Pack 6. I went ahead and duplicated my background layer. I'm going to come up to Filter and DXO Labs and launch Film Pack 6, and we'll get started. Here we are in Film Pack 6, and I really love this interface. It's really laid out well. By the way, there are two different versions of Film Pack 6. There's the Essential version. That's what you see on the left of this printout. And on the right, we have the Elite version. Now, I have the Elite version, and I highly recommend it because there's a lot more features. It has a lot more presets. Plus, the Elite version supports Fujifilm X-Trans RAW files, whereas the Essential version doesn't. And here you can see the price differences between the two. So right now, $109.99 for the Elite and $54.99 for the Essential, and they're both on sale right now. Well, let me introduce you to DXO Film Pack 6 Elite. This is the Elite edition. Now, not only does it emulate films and the different grain styles in the films and the colors, which is amazing, and those folks at DXO, they are scientists. They know what they are doing. You're going to be really impressed by the quality here. But this is also a full editing piece of software. In other words, you can adjust color, you can add effects like textures, light leaks. It does a bunch. I'll show you some of that stuff. It's not a full tutorial, it's an introduction, but I think you're going to be impressed with it. Let me start out by showing you some new presets. These are digital films, and these are Fuji films. Now I'm going to click the first one on. This is Fuji Astia Soft. And you can see how beautiful it looks. And on the left-hand side of the interface is a description about that particular film, okay? And let's go through some of these. Here's Classic Chrome. But these are beautiful renditions, and those scientists, engineers at DXO really know how to do this right. That was Fuji Terna. Here's Pro Neg Standard. Here's Pro Neg High. Classic Negative. And Fuji Classic Chrome. Let's look at some more. I'm going to come up here to Filter, click on here. Now we can filter many different ways. We can just look for color presets, black and white presets, combinations of presets, legacy films, negative films, slide films, designer presets. We just looked at digital films, then we have cinematic films. This is something new, and then we have something new as well called Time Machine, which is like a history lesson in the history of filmmaking. So stay tuned for that. You're going to love it. But let's start out by looking at some designer presets here. So let me click on designer presets, and it filters them out. So we'll look at some of these here. Here's Poetic. And again, bear in mind over here, you got a description of that particular preset. But look how beautiful that is. Let me just click through some of these. This one's called Powdery, Pure Gold. But they look like film. I hope you can see this on your monitors. Here's Soft Focus. Vintage, beautiful. I don't know how to say this one. Stenope. okay? But look at the grain in there. It's beautiful. And DXO go out of their way to make the grains match the particular film stock that you're working with. Here's one called Red Tone, Prussian Red, and then we have Pola. Take a look at the info on this film. It's a Polaroid film. It's created in 2010. It's still available today, and it gives you a little rundown about this particular type of film, which I find very fascinating. But let's move on. Let's come back to filter, and this time I want to look at cinematic films. Now, these are new, I believe, for Film Pack 6. So let's take a look at these. This one's called Autumn. This one's called Faded Green and Pink. Beautiful looks. Pastel. These preset film emulations are just the starting point. You can come up here to modify, click that, and modify these looks to your heart's content. You have contrast, color, you can add light leaks, textures, frames. I mean, we're going to get into some of that in a little bit, but bear that in mind as we look at these different looks. If you love color grading, you're going to love Film Pack 6. If you're a wedding photographer, a portrait photographer, a landscape photographer, any type of photographer, you're going to love Film Pack 6. Let's come back up here to filter, and let's look at our color presets. And then we could drill down to just finding like negative films or slide films. But this is just color negative films, okay? And these are all the different presets here. We're not going to look through all of these because I want to get to the time machine, but I just want to show you how we can drill down. Like we could just look for legacy films that are negative films, slide films, and we could do color, or say we just want to do black and white this time. Let's just do black and white. Now, if you love black and white photography, again, you're going to love Film Pack 6 because it does black and white like pretty darn close to Silver Effects Pro 2. If not better in some respects, because you're getting real film stocks here. But look at that. Is that amazing or what? You get some really good looks here. There's Agfa. I love black and white, so I'm a big fan of this. But when you look at these images, you say, that looks like film. It doesn't look like it came out of a digital camera. Here's Ilford Pan 400. These are famous films. Now, there's Tri-X in here. Tri-X 400. Very famous film. Kodak Tri-X 400 right here. And as I zoom in, look at that grain. And it is so realistic. It's not just noise. It's film grain. It looks like real film grain, which really excites me. Hopefully you can hear that in my voice. Color or black and white, Film Pack 6 really has it all. Are you ready to go back in time? Well, then let's go ahead and check out the time machine. To get to the time machine, just click on Time Machine. And when you do, take a look at the left-hand side of the interface. This is the 1950s right here. And you'll notice over here on the right side of the interface, it says 1950s 6 films. And there are 6 films in there, okay? But let's start out at the 19th century. Let's click on 19th century, and we have 20 films in here. But on the left-hand side, if you click on these descriptions, you'll see some film looks. These are famous images, and you can read up about the films here. It's a whole history lesson, okay? Let's look at another one here. The First Man Photograph, Daguerre, 1838, and read up about this. Let's look at another one here. Nadar preceded by innovation, The Good Joke, 1856. But is this a history lesson or is this a history lesson? Okay. And you can go through all the different eras, and then you could try those films on your image and bring your image into that era, you know, starting in the 19th century, going the whole way up into 2020. So really cool stuff. Now, here's the 1940s, and we can read up about the different films they were using back in the 1940s and apply those to our images. I mean, this is worth the price of admission alone. There's Ansel Adams, okay, the zone system. Like, how cool is that? Well, let's go up to the 19th century. There's 20 films in here. Let's look at these. Okay, here's the first one here. Okay, you can tell that this was at the dawning of the film era, okay? But look at that. Look at the grain in there. It's beautiful. Isn't that great? I mean, This excites me. I hope it excites you like it excites me. Let's look at some more from this era. Aren't they great? I mean, it looks like I'm watching a movie. I mean, that quality, it looks like film to me. I hope you're really seeing that. And look at that overlay. That's like a glass overlay over the image. But just beautiful. And you can see textures in there. And I don't know. It's beautiful stuff. I just love it. I mean, look at these looks. Amazing, right? Let's look at another era. Let's go into the 1930s. What was happening in the 1930s? Let's go up to the top here. This one's called Berliner. Okay, for Germany, I believe. Check that out. Isn't that beautiful? Let's look at some more. Contrasted sepia, 1930s look. Look at the green in there and some textures and beautiful. Oh, I like that. Nice and dreamy look. Look how it goes out of focus. Now, you can do focus effects, soft focus effects. You can do all kind of stuff with this. It's really amazing. Let's look at one more era. Let's go into the 1980s just for the heck of it. Let me find one here that looks kind of cool. Let's try this 1989 Berlin. Let's work on this one. Let me go ahead and click Modify. And let's get rid of this information over here by closing it out. And if we click the zoom button, it'll fill the screen with it. And now on the right is our interface where we can make our adjustments. We start out at the top with film. Now we have Kodak Kodachrome 200 is the film we're using. That's the film stock we're using. This is the grain for that film. And you have different ways that you can set up that grain. Now it's set up for a 24 by 36 image. You can do medium format, large, or custom format. I'm just going to leave it on the 24 by 36 default setting here. You can add more grain by dragging the slider to the right, or less if you drag it to the left. You may say, I don't want grain. Well, if you don't like grain, I love grain. If you don't like it, take it out. It's all up to you. This is your world. Remember that. And now we have development. So we have exposure, so we can lighten it up if we feel we need to, or we can darken down a little bit. Let me just take a little bit of the exposure off. We can decrease the saturation somewhat, or we can increase the saturation. I think I might just pull that saturation to right here. I think that looks good. And then we also have vibrancy. And now we have contrast. But this contrast is nice because it's broken down into straightforward contrast, but then it breaks it into micro contrast, fine contrast, highlights, midtones, and shadows. So we can really play around with the contrast. We can give it more contrast. We can give it less. Maybe I'll give it a little less contrast. Just a little wee bit. I'm not going to mess with the other ones here. And then we have hue, saturation, and lightness. Now, we have 8 different colors that we can work with. We have red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, magenta, and purple. So we can alter any of these colors. So if you want to alter the reds, just click on red. Now we can desaturate the reds if we want to, or give them more saturation, whatever you want to do. Maybe I'll just desaturate them just a little wee bit. We can adjust their lightness and the hue of them as well. We also have a tone curve that we can play with the tone. Now you'll notice that this tone curve is set up for this particular film, that the guys at DXO have set up for this particular film stock, okay? But you can alter that and change it any way you like. It's really up to you. We have automated corrections in here, okay? And then we have graphical effects, where we could add a frame if we want to. If we want to add a frame to this image, like we could, let's say we want to give it a white frame. We can add a white frame on it. Or if you don't want any frame, just come here and say, I don't want a frame, no frame. We can add texture, like we can add some paper grain to the image. We can adjust the intensity of this texture, give it more, or take it back, give it less. We can also do some randomization where it'll move it around. Every time you click randomize, it'll move that texture around into different areas. And we have all these other different textures that we can play with. Here's scratches. And these textures are very realistic, photographic type textures, which I really love. And then we have light leaks. If you want to do a light leak, maybe a color light leak on it. And again, we can tell it where we want it to go. Do we want it on the left? Do we want it on the right? Do we want it on the top? Do we want it on the bottom? And what is this one? Any side. Okay. And then we have randomize it. We can randomize it, and it'll just move it around by itself randomly, which is kind of nice. Okay, so we have light leaks there. Let's try a different light leak. Let's try this one right here. Okay, and let's change the, what side is it on? Let's put it on the left. Okay, so we can adjust the intensity of that light leak. So pretty cool. Actually, I kind of like that light leak in there. I might add a little bit of a light leak in there. And then we have some filtering effects here. We can add filters to them, different color filters. I really like these when I'm doing black and white photography. I'll do another tutorial on that, but you can use them on color as well. And then we have different types of vignetting that we can do. The filter and the vignetting all falls under the lens effects category. Now we have creative vignetting, which is basically typical vignetting where you can darken down the edges or lighten the edges, whatever you like. And once you start adjusting it, then more adjustments open up for you. Like you can set the midpoint, the transition, the roundness. So let's just add a little bit of a vignette on here, just a little wee bit. I'm not going to mess with anything else. And then what I really love is blur. So when we come into this blur section, right now it's set for vignetting, or you could set it for soft focus. Let's set it for vignetting. I'll pull this adjustment to the right, and as I do, you notice how things start to blur out. Okay? And then we can adjust the radius of that blur. And we can also set the center of the blur by clicking on this icon, and then we can say where we want this vignette to start at. Okay? And then we can adjust the transition. So if I move it to the right, you can see the transitional point right here. And we can soften that transition by moving this to the left to where we like it. And then we can even diffuse this blur. If we don't want it super blurry, we can diffuse it by moving this to the right. It'll take some of that off and just give it a nice little like dreamy look. But one thing I want you to know that's really awesome about the blur with Film Pack 6 is the fact that the grain is a part of the blur. In other words, it's not going to be unrealistic where you have to add, in Photoshop, where you have to add some like noise to it. No, the grain goes right over the blur, which makes it really realistic, which I really love. If you're satisfied with your set center point, click apply. And I really like this soft, diffused, dreamy look that we've got now. If you want to see it before and after, just left click on compare and hold your mouse down. There's the before, release the click, and here's the after. But isn't that beautiful? I love the blur and the dreamy, diffused looks that you get in Film Pack 6. Once you're satisfied with your edit, all you need to do is come up here where it says save, click on here, and that'll save this out and send you right back to Photoshop. Here we are in Photoshop. So we started out here and we end up here, but isn't that beautiful? Truly amazing. And let me zoom in so you can see that glorious, grain effects. Nobody does grain like DXO, and I love grain, especially if you like film photography. You've got to love grain too, because you have grain always in film photography. However, if you're not a fan of grain, when you're in Film Pack 6, just don't apply the grain, just remove it. It's your choice. I hope you enjoyed this introduction to DXO Film Pack 6. Remember, it's on sale now. You can click on my affiliate link in the description below. It'll take you to the sales. I make a small commission. It helps support my channel. I thank you for that. You can also download a free trial and try it out for yourself. I know you will love it, but try it out. You owe that to yourself. Hey, and please leave comments and questions in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed my tutorial today, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And if you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe, click that bell notification icon. Then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll be notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. I'll see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing.